Welcome to part two of my conversations with George O'Connor. If you watch the first episode, you'll know that George is a good friend of mine, a comic book writer. I'm in a band with him, and came on the show to talk about his new book called Vampires on Mars that he has a Kickstarter for going now in the month of April in 2024. Please fast forward if it's not April anymore when you're watching this. Our conversation went really long. We weren't able to, I just didn't want to put out a 2-hour video. So I cut it very awkwardly at about 1 hour, and sort of at the point where we're done with talking about Vampires on Mars. And when we started talking about some of his comics that he had brought with him, he had started collecting some slabs, getting some book slabs, picking up some books that are grails for him and investments, and some other books that are a big influence on him. So because of that awkward cut, there really was no intro video to start this, so I'm doing it on my own. But just imagine handsome George is just sitting right there with me. Hey, George, how you doing, buddy? So anyway, stick around. I'm Randy, this is Swarm of Comics, and you're going to love this upcoming interview with George O'Connor. And while I've stolen George here, I also wanted to sort of go through some books that were he's brought along with him that are, like I said in the preview, is that are important to him, that he likes, that he started collecting. So he's going to kind of bust out and do a displays of some slabs and tell us a little bit about them. So I say go for it. What do you got for us?
Okay.
Kind of previewed a couple already.
Yeah. So, I like getting some of these slab, the books that I did. It's
Getting your own stuff slabbed
it's cool.
Must be cool.
It's cool. So a couple that I have, we did talk about Charlie Spot. I get to put over the creative team of Meredith Flaxton was the artist, Ellie Pepitone was our colors, and Taylor Esposito
Thanks, guys.
was our letterer. And yeah, I love this book. I think probably to this point was like the most of myself I had the guts to put into a book.
Yeah.
And I'm really still very proud of how this came out. And like I said, grown men telling me that this story made them cry. It's like we did our job.
I love the artwork in it. I thought the artwork
Meredith Flaxton is so
absolutely killed it
good.
to the emotion, and it fit the story fantastic. So I love that. Charlie Spot #1. Got a 9.8 on that one.
Got a 9.8. My shame 9.6 of Healed. Like we talk about Healed a lot. It's the book that started it all. A new creative endeavor that I've so loved making comics these last 14 years, and really fallen in love with the medium as an adult. I read as a kid. My brother's 9 years older than me, so his job was to take his younger brothers to the comic book store with him.
So I had an older brother when I was little.
So
I was the older brother taking him to the comic store.
Those early 80s X-Men, Claremont and that group. I mean, that's what got me in as a kid. Older brother.
Were those popular?
A little bit. Older brother goes to college. Mom and dad not so keen on taking the kids to the comic book store, so kind of fell out. So for better or for worse, I missed the whole 90s run.
Yeah.
And around early 2010, that's when the fever of San Diego Comic-Con started to build into what it is now.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I've always been a geek, always, kept an eye on it, had friends who worked at comic book stores and kind of would keep an eye.
Yeah, Eric Carter worked at the comic store.
Yeah.
See him at the cons.
And it, along the way, always doing music, but started doing short films and stuff like that. And then
Speaking of short films,
I'll tie that in. So I was doing short films, and the kind of like the rule of thumb with short films is don't write what you can't shoot. So, don't write a pirate movie if you don't have access to a pirate ship, because now you've just got a 120-page document that you can't do anything with.
Okay.
So comics, if you find the right creators, you can, those bigger ideas can come to life.
Okay.
You can create a spaceship for vampires to live on.
Yeah.
And it'll look great. And it was a new avenue to explore and start telling stories in. And like I said, we started with Healed #1, not knowing if anybody would get it. And like I said, enough people did, where 14 years later, this is still the trade of Healed is still one of the things I sell the most year after year.
Right, because it's in a trade. You can buy the trade.
Yeah. All 5 issues.
Yep, homelesscomics.com. And there. But
yeah,
but here's what George did.
Yeah, so about 6 or 7 years ago, along with my friend Diana Porter, who's a fantastic producer and actress and director herself.
Hi, Diana Porter.
We took the
she was a booth babe too, if I remember.
When we first started out, again, like weird compliments is Healed connected to her in such a way. She's like, what can I do to help get this out there? I'm like, stand behind a booth and help us.
And a naughty nurse outfit? Healed?
Right. We did that for a while and then realized like that might be a little too much for the average con goer to like focus on the book.
No, it's a horrible story about tragedy.
Yeah, when a stunning 5 in heels, 5'11" nurse is trying to sell you on a book, maybe the conversations aren't being heard. And then plus more comfortable shoes.
Yes.
For Diana.
So you and Diana, this amazing, also Renaissance person who does acting, directing, producing, everything.
Yeah. We decided to take the first story from Healed, the first 8 pages of Healed, and we shot a short film from it. And you can go on YouTube, search Healed George O'Connor, because if you just throw Healed into YouTube, you're gonna get a lot of stuff.
I will include the link
Yeah.
in the description below. So click the description, expand it down there, click on the links, go watch the Healed short film.
Yep.
Which I am in as a very minor in the back character. It takes place in a church, and the day of the shoot was great. We invited people. Our friend Gina came. Hi, Gina.
Oh,
and
such a great day.
We had a great day. It was gorgeous weather, and I was there, right? And it was supposed to be a mix of different types of people, families and everything. So I fell into the biker. I was part of the bikers that were there, and I had my hair down. Sophia was the biker babe with me. Yeah. Hi, Sophia. And we were in the video, and Diana starred in that, and Arthur starred in that.
Yeah, my friend Arthur Laurie. It's essentially like a 5-minute monologue that Arthur just put on his back.
And that's the other thing. It's a great short. It's honestly short film. It's like 8 minutes long or whatever you said
it was.
At most. So please go check that out. It's the first story from Healed. If you aren't able to pick up the book, at least go check that out on YouTube and get that some views.
Yeah, and again, something I'm incredibly proud of, and would love to get more eyeballs on.
Awesome.
So, and then the last of my own stuff is Baby #1 that we kind of talked about. So after we did Healed, and I think we've talked about it enough to really Healed was a heavy book that Griffin and I would put ideas towards. And when we were wrapping up Healed, we're like, all right, we got to do something else. We got we got to do something a little lighter. And we'd done conventions for a bunch of years, and we realized at these conventions there were kids comics, and there were adult comics, and not a lot of books where you could feel like everybody could read it and get something out of it.
And I remember at your con, because I would come see George all the time at the Boston one and everything like that, and I'd love to hang out at his booth and find my way behind the booth so I looked like I was one of the in people. And I actually remember people would come by with their kids asking if there was anything their kids could read. I actually remember being there for that. So sorry to interrupt, but I witnessed that.
Yeah, and so
maybe you don't sell them Healed.
Right. So like I said, Baby is kind of our Clifford meets Godzilla story about an adorable baby monster who accidentally destroys Atlantic City.
You even made a stuffed animal for yourself, didn't you?
My sister made it.
Oh, did your sister make it?
She kind of made a prototype for it. Yeah.
Hi, Rusty.
So yeah, that's one of my prized possessions is a stuffy of Baby.
Yeah.
And Baby, I say, is kind of like our Looney Tunes story where everybody can watch Bugs Bunny and everybody's laughing, maybe for different reasons.
Yeah.
But they can all enjoy it together. And that's what we wanted to do with Baby. Like, it was a palate cleanse for Griffin and I, but then we also wanted to offer something that maybe people at these conventions could find somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this, you know, we were talking about the story behind the stories. This one, like, yeah, it's a baby destroying Atlantic City, and it's adorable and it's funny, but the story is about never giving up on your hopes and dreams. And like I said, we wrapped it up.
All these are so inspirational,
I
George.
tried. I
Like
tried.
that. Why Atlantic City? Did you
Because
have a bad gambling day there? Or
no,
something?
you know, it's like, well, New York had already been destroyed by monsters. Tokyo had already been
Kind of
destroyed.
destroyed.
So we wanted to do something else, and we thought, you know, Atlantic City's got some name recognition.
Yeah,
So-
the water's right there, the boardwalk,
Yes.
and this monster is from the
And again, so this is the second book we've done. So we've had it at our table for maybe close to 12 years at this point, 10 or
Wow,
11 or
really?
12 years. And my favorite thing about Baby is in the 10, 11 years we've been pitching that. Whenever we get to the destroy Atlantic City, no one's ever like, oh no, Atlantic City. More often than not, like, it should have happened decades ago.
I love the catchrease on the back
Yeah.
that he has here. And now this is not one of the original books, or is it one of the original
No,
books?
that's one of the
The
original.
original. Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't know
yeah,
if it was a reprint or anything like that. Okay.
No.
Tell me if you've heard this one before. A cryptozoologist, a soon to be retired cop, and a monster from the deep meet at the Jersey Shore. I probably should have read that sentence in my head first before trying to read
That's
it all.
look,
Did I
man,
get it out there?
you're learning to read. It's
I was like,
going
and a
good.
cop and a monster from the deep meet the New Jersey. Oh, right.
Yeah.
It's the whole cop about to retire
Yeah.
sort of trope where it's
So-
like about to hand in his badge. It's my last day on the job. Like, so it's got a lot of
Yeah.
angles. So you got like the Godzilla, you got
Yeah.
the soon to be retired grizzled cop. You got a lot of angles here.
Yeah.
So still in trade.
Yep.
Pick these up. Homelesscomics.com. That's the logo I created. You're probably not going to see it on there. My ring light you'll see.
Yep.
And
It is
yeah.
everywhere, man.
yep. So come see this and come see in the convention. So that's awesome. So
Yeah.
that's the end of
So
your.
so those are my books.
Those are books you got slammed.
The next kind of group that I brought are books that are important to me
Yeah.
as a creator, inspirations, writing wise. You know, these are books that you know, they may never pay for a vacation or anything like that, but they're really important to me. And we've mentioned it a couple times. So one of them is Chew #1 from John Layman and Rob Gilroy. I love this book, and you know, we aped some of the vibe for Vampires on Mars. Their ability to be over the top and funny, but they still grounded. There were still stakes. There's enough realism in the over the topness that it works. And this is one of the books when as I got back as an adult and started to discover things, and what do I like, what do I respond to as an adult. Chew was definitely there, and you know, I've had the chance to meet, and I tabled across Layman and Gilroy. They're wonderful people. They're
Awesome.
great people, great creators. So this book, like I said, is very.
Can I steal the book for a second?
Absolutely.
Because it's a tangent, by the way. So this is now you bought this graded, or did you have it graded?
I bought it raw, had it graded.
You did. Okay. So your book, I don't know if people are going to be able to see this on camera. You can see it. Can you see all those spots?
Yeah, is that the
those are called,
that's the plastic.
it's called the Newton rings. It's not going to get on there. So all you people who get their books slab, this is loaded with Newton rings. You could, in theory, get this reholdered, because this is some problem CGC had. So I'm just saying, for those people out there doing their slabs, maybe you can't see because it's the white, but George is a victim of the Newton rings. Look that up. Newton rings in.
Is it going to hurt the book?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. And you don't have to do it.
And so it's more of
whatever.
a
If you don't like it. I just wanted to point it out because I've got a couple that I bought already with Newton rings. I haven't got any of my books slabs so far with Newton rings. I've been lucky.
So the next one, this is the one where like I feel really good about, because I bought it when the series came out. I was like, that sounds interesting. And you hope, right? Like every #1 you buy is going to be the thing that explodes. And so when I realized that this book had gotten to a certain level, and I had I bought it that day, that #1, and then got it back as a 9.6. So Saga #1.
And you know that's the first print because the logo is orange.
Yeah.
That's how you know. So Saga, different prints have different color logo.
So this is like probably my best find. Yeah, where you're like, no, I just paid $3 for that.
Right. When you dig that out, you're
Right.
like, wait, I think I have that.
Yes. You know, and then Saga #1, I mean, this is every independent creator's dream of, coming together with a book that just hits and
Yeah.
resonates. I mean, they've now gotten to a level that very few books can, which is like, we're on for 6 issues. We're going to take 3 months off, and then we're going to come back with the next round.
Is that not turning you off?
No, because it is so good.
So you still feel the quality of the book is held up?
100%.
Let me give you my opinion. Nobody asked for. I haven't dropped Saga yet.
Yeah.
Because it comes out so infrequently. It's not like I'm throwing away money every month on like Amazing Spider-Man. Not saying anything about Amazing Spider-Man. Is that I feel like the story's just running in place. I feel like I've read 16 issues and then nothing's happened. So much used to happen in that book. And now just some things don't, I mean, I feel like all the major players have been separated. And again, you're listening to this in 2024, beginning of 2020, first quarter 2024. Who knows what's going to happen with it? But I just feel like, for me, I feel like Saga, between the breaks that they're doing, and I know they can afford to do that.
Yeah.
And I get that there's other creative things they're working on, but I'm starting to get soured on Saga. What we hope is it gets optioned. I've heard it a million times, it's going to get optioned and turns into something. Then it's going to skyrocket again.
Right.
So that's love Saga. I didn't get on the train until later, and I started on trades. I'm very hesitant to start new things, and I'm trying to do better with that.
I think I have just real. I think I like it. I like the routine of Wednesday. I do like the routine. I like the community, even though I'm fully aware, like the $40 I just spent, the minute I walk out that store, is maybe worth $2 in credit in 6 months.
So the other thing for me is, and it's funny that you say that, is that for a long time I was only going to my comic store every 2 to 3 months. Well, my comic store is great because it's a small, one guy owned independent place, and he's known me for 22 years now, where he would say, "Oh, Randy might like this. Let me throw that in there. Oh, it's a Millar book. Oh, I'll throw that in there," wherever it happened to be. But he never thought to himself, "Hey, Randy might like this Saga book."
Right.
And by the time I even knew about it, the ship had taken off. So again, beautiful book. I wasn't trying to sour it at the end. I was just curious as to what other readers thought about the slowdown in release and the sort of story running in place.
I mean, it's like I said, I think it's one of the best pound for pound book for, issue to issue books out there. Would I love more of it? Of course.
Right.
But they're in a very rare place where I think, they were monthly for whatever that 2, 3 year, 4 year run.
Yeah.
And it was such a high quality that they've earned my trust. And then also, as a creator who, not only will read a book, but then also dissect the book.
Yeah.
To, what can I learn from it?
Yeah.
The economy that they have of story, and, I am amazed at what they can do in like a short amount of time, where there's a short amount of dialogue, a short amount of art, that type of thing. And like I said, I just think it's a high level.
Awesome.
And then this one I came into late, so I did have to track this down. I still think issue to issue, there was not one filler issue on this, beginning to end. It is Scalped #1, by Jason Aaron and R.M. Guerra. I hope I pronounced that right. Who's the main artist for it? I don't think there was a wasted issue in this run. It blew me away. Again, had definitely played a role in what type of stuff does adult George like and want to read. And so like I said, this one is very important to me. Jason Aaron, I think, is a monster of a writer. He's if Jason wrote it, I'm going to give it a shot. At a minimum. And usually, it blows me away. So this was one that, when I was thinking about books I wanted to own that were important to me, this was a gift from somebody who then I got it slabbed, I think. It's signed, and you can see it's signed by Jason Aaron.
Beautiful white area to force signature. Yeah. So I've got 3 things to add about this.
Yes.
So Scalped. I think you started getting into this when we were recording our first album.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
So when we were recording our first album, which I think we put out in 2010, look for that. It's called Designing the Dystopia. It's on Bandcamp, Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere. Swarm of Eyes. You can find links on swarmofeyes.com. we would be recording vocals and recording the album, working together at George's house. So I was reading this because I would read George's issues. And then we finished recording the album and I never finished the issues because I wasn't over his house. So I have to finish reading this. The problem is, so that was story number one. Story number two, there's no trade of this.
There isn't.
But Jason Aaron just announced there's gonna be.
Okay, so you know that.
So
okay.
now I'm gonna get the trade so I can finish this series. Number three, and you might already know this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. CGC just bought a independent signature verification company. So the reason people would send pre-signed books to CBCS is CBCS would go and get this signature verified as this artist. Then their label would not be qualified. The green label here, when you get things graded, means there's something wrong with it. As far as CGC is concerned, somebody scribbled on the front of this. They have no confirmation this is Jason Aaron. Was it Aaron or the artist?
No, Jason.
It is Jason Aaron. I was trying to read it, but
no, look at that.
So that was one advantage CBCS had. They would certify your books. They wouldn't just automatically say any signature was legit. They had a company that would certify the signature, so then they could give it the proper universal or signed label. Just announced last week that CGC is now doing that. So people own books like this can send them in. CGC will crack it for you. They will verify the signature and then relabel it, and you can get the yellow signed label, which would, I know you're not trying to resell it. It might not be worth any more. It might not be worth doing, but it would not be qualified anymore.
Right.
And it doesn't matter whether Jack Kirby or Stan Lee signed your book and you watched him and you have a photo of Stan Lee signing while you're standing next to him like this, your book is still qualified. And qualified for resale and for value, if you care about that, it's not as bad as the purple label of death, which is a restoration, but it's somebody scribbled on it and this is qualified. Qualified could also be the centerfold is missing.
Oh, yeah.
The qualified could also be back in the 1970s, Marvel would have these little value stamps.
I was going to ask about that.
The value stamps, and they're like, cut these out and send them in and we'll send you a free whatever. So whenever you buy like a Hulk 181 or certain years and months, you have to go in and check to see if the value stamps are there because kids will cut them out.
Yep.
And if you don't do that and then you get a grade and it comes back qualified, your book you thought was worth $3,000 is not worth $3,000. So that was my third story here. If you wanted, you could resubmit this to get the yellow signed fancy label.
That maybe if there were times like, all right, let's sell this. But you know, this was that, like I said, this book is definitely more personal than investment.
Yep.
You know, this was Heroes Con 2017, 2016, you know.
Thanks, Jason.
So yeah.
He probably watches these.
And so the third flavor,
the big heavy hitters,
is the books that we hope go up in value, that were bought a little more mercenary. And you know this, and I don't know if you've talked about it or not. These were definitely pandemic inspired purchases because all of a sudden I wasn't paying for parking and trains and all this stuff, and had some extra money lying around.
People were either investing in their house, building new decks and rooms in their house. The comic, I mean, we call it now. So all of you people, if you follow it all, there was the comic boom. People didn't know what to do with their money who had money. And unfortunately, some people didn't have money. And thankfully, there was some assistance for people. But at the time, people didn't know where to channel their money. For me personally, we weren't going on vacation. My wife and I like to go on vacations a couple times a year. The matter of fact, we were in the Dominican Republic for 2 weeks in February, right before the pandemic hit. We got home, and the next day, I think I had to go to Las Vegas for work. And while I was in Las Vegas, it was hitting. And I remember people like elbow bumping because of this. And I remember getting on the plane and people had masks on. I'm like, what's going on here? But we had just gone on our trip to the Dominican Republic. So
you were patient zero.
Our fancy vacations were non-existent. So people were diving into.
And in that realm, I'm very lucky. I've been able to go to San Diego Comic-Con every year since like maybe 2013 or something like that. you know, thanks to the professional badges.
He's a pro.
These books that I wrote get me into San Diego Comic-Con, which is fantastic. So that was canceled. All those conventions were canceled.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, you know, whether it was a vacation or, you know, a working vacation like San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And so then I made the mistake of seeing an ad for hipcomic.com, which is, I guess you call it an auction site, but it looks like a bunch of different stores and comic book owners.
If you're a dealer, you can use, like, have your own store or use Hip Comic as a an outlet, so you don't have to go to eBay, because eBay fees are apparently ridiculous, even if you do buy it nows and stuff. So people are starting to find these others, My Comic Shop, Hip Comic, and so forth. So you go there and they'll have auctions, like specifically, like Casablanca Comics is having an auction tonight of 300 books on Hip Comic. They do buy it now. They have millions of different comics on there. They have an app. I actually use the app because you can take the app and you can scan. You can actually use your camera, takes a photo of your book, finds it in their database, and now it's been added to your collection. And it'll even give you a price. The prices don't take slabbed into consideration.
Oh, okay.
I think they're working on. They say that it is a beta sort of thing. They're working on features. So Hip Comic has a lot of different things and angles they do. So they are a basic comic reseller.
Yeah. And so, you know, with the blessing of everybody in the house, you know, and like, you know, very much, well, this is
Thanks,
what
Tracy and Logan.
Yeah. So this is what, you know, for me, it's Overstreet is the price guide I kind of use. And, you know, I get, you have opinions. So, you know, let's just get to it. So I made two purchases. One was Werewolf by Night 32, because
Is that a good one? What's in this?
Well, this would be the introduction of Moon Knight.
That's not Batman. That's not Batman, guys.
And I like Moon Knight. I can't tell you why I like Moon Knight. As a kid, you know, that 80s, that early 80s kid going to the store.
Yeah.
I have my Moon Knights from 81, 82, 83.
The Sienkiewicz run on that was fantastic.
I couldn't tell you any stories from those. I couldn't tell you why, but I am telling you, I like Moon Knight.
You like it, but you also want to get this because it was a key in an investment.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So that, you know,
9.4.
Hopefully one of these books that will just keep going up. We'll see.
It's leveling out, but it's never going to go below what it was pre-boom.
Right. And this was at a price I was comfortable paying for.
I love it. Can I grab it for a second?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I do not have this book. This is definitely one of the keys besides the first Blade, and I want the first Moon Knight. I just have not invested the money in it. I've been really focusing on Golden Age. This is a beautiful 9.4. I'm trying to figure out how it's not even a 9.8. It's got a miswrap.
Yeah, maybe this. Yeah,
I think the miswrap, and that's a bindery tear, so that doesn't affect anything. And I know miswraps and binderies and printing things don't really affect the book, but they will stop you from having the highest grades. So like a 9.9, you cannot have anything.
Exist?
That's a video for a whole other day. What they're doing with 9.9s now. So I just want to see it because this is a 9.4 and this is beautiful, and I would definitely love to have this book.
When I got back into comics as an adult, and like I said, going to New York Comic Con and San Diego Comic Con, one of the games I would play is, you know, looking back at that, you know, early 80s books that I had, and I was like, I'm going to fill in the gaps of Moon Knight. Why? I don't know. So
you don't have to know. We don't have to justify it. It's comic book.
So it was fun to try and find weird, like, I need, you know, issue 32 of Moon Knight. Why? Because I need because there's a gap and we must fill the gap. And then, you know, because I am that 80s kid, again, the price was right. And like, this should be a book that'll never go down. So Giant Size X-Men #1 at a 9.
I won't dig out my sad 7.0.
Oh, it would get intimidated.
But if you know from my video for my top 10 14 Bronze Age books, my thumbnail took inspiration from this.
Yeah.
So you should go watch that video too. So this, I'm going to grab
Yeah, yeah,
again.
yeah.
I want to see this. So this was a giant size X-Men, as you all know, 1975. This was sort of a reboot for X-Men. The X-Men were actually never really popular.
Yeah.
People could argue with that, but even when they came out, nobody cared. Nobody cared so much that for years and years, they were just reprints.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I couldn't afford X-Men 95, so I bought X-Men 94. No. Sorry. 94 is the expensive one. I had 93.
Gotcha.
I couldn't afford the giant size X-Men #1, and I couldn't afford X-Men, Uncanny X-Men number 94. Sorry, I got this right. Maybe I'll do some editing. I own number 93, which is the last reprint.
Gotcha.
I think it's got Pietro Quicksilver on the cover or something like that, fighting Cyclops is shooting, but I could never afford those. It's kind of like I want to buy Hulk 182.
Right.
Just because I feel so bad. Like, how do you follow up 180 and 181? And then you're like 182. Like, I feel like we should embrace those other ones more. But this is absolutely gorgeous book. You have a great strike on there with the beautiful colors. Sometimes this red can be more of a light red or almost orangey sort of color. I mean, this is just obviously a grail for any collector. I don't care who you are. This is absolutely fantastic. And a 9.0.
X-Men, I mean, like I said, early 80s. Of course, X-Men was the reason I was reading. And at a minimum, Marvel, if not comics, Wolverine and all that stuff. Like like you can tell how old people are by who their X-Men team is.
Yep.
Like who is in the corner box.
Yep.
That's your X-Men team.
So
I think I feel like this is one of those books that is now just on its own snowball. Like, the X-Men may wax and wane in popularity, but they will always be the X-Men.
Right. And X-Men 97 cartoon coming out.
Which is I'm 3 episodes in so far, and I'm digging it. I feel bad, and I don't know if you were like, I feel like we were just too old for X-Men to like. I see kids, everyone's a kid. I see people 10 and 15 years younger than me. Like X-Men was their life,
losing their stuff over this because it's such nostalgia from the first series. I never saw one.
I was
just too old. Right.
Yeah.
I was driving around in my car, playing in a band, doing whatever it was. I just wasn't watching cartoons anymore.
Yeah. It just, we got
Sigmund and the Sea Monster. No, what's in the cartoon?
We got Star Blazers.
We had Star Blazers, Force 5. Yeah. Right. We had some fantastic stuff. So I was just a little, so I haven't lost I'm not saying it's probably not a good series. Yeah. I just have the nostalgia bug didn't bite me for that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely going to continue to.
They are nudging their way into the MCU, which I think will be another pop. But like I said, not that it'll ever get to Action Comics level.
No.
But I think this is a book that's just going to continuously run, and there will always be somebody interested in picking up a 9.0 at some point, and my son can figure out what to do with it in 50 years.
Yeah. Well, that's why I log my books into Hip Comics, and I've got to catch up on that, because at least I can give Beth, my wife, the login, and if she's got it, she can see vague values. I would like them to update it to that. I want to insure my collection. There's a lot of things I want to do because I don't want to leave someone held in the bag and someone say, how much can you give me for this? And somebody says, $20. It's only a 9.0. Yeah. So,
and then just the in the house story is, if it wasn't the same night, I bought these two very close to each other. And, like I said, while I paid a price I was comfortable with,
yes,
it was still a chunk of change.
Yeah.
And I was like, and like I said, we were lucky. We were lucky that we could, make an investment.
As far as I remember, let me interrupt, is that you hit these when the comic boom started dying, so people started giving better prices.
Maybe, or it was right before it truly spiked.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So I was like, okay, we can do this and we'll be all right. Got it. And then like 3 months later, our air conditioning unit died. And basically we had to, what I shelled out for these books is what we had to shell out for a whole new AC system. And the way I describe it is like, if you're ever like it's at night and you're speeding down the highway and you're like, oh, I'm going really fast, but everything's okay. And then like you hit a little bit of ice and your car goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa," and you're like,
You
okay,
slow down.
and you slow down. I was like, okay, that was fun. That was fun. But now I'm gonna just do the speed limit. And that was my feeling after buying these books. I was like, okay, that was fun, and I'm really glad I have them. But maybe I'm not gonna crack open that nut again for these big.
Maybe I
big
need
books.
that like emergency fund.
Yeah.
Maybe don't buy any more.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Like maybe make sure that emergency fund's a little higher.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, it didn't help that Hip Comic a couple days ago like had a 181. At the moment it was kind of like a decent price.
yeah.
But it's a 181, so even a decent price for a 181, like
Yeah.
a 9 or something like that. I was like, no, let's be
9?
cool. Let's be cool.
Oof.
We'll be cool.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, so this is my travels in
I love it.
in
Sort of
Slabtown.
dipping your talents into getting your grails that also double as investments. And I'm doing
Yeah.
the same thing. I'm having fun with it, but I know, hey, my giant size X-Men, not a 9.1, but also because I'm sort of becoming not trained, because I'm not an expert, just like comic YouTubers suck user on YouTube said, but I'm still always looking, hey,
Yeah.
why is this a 9?
Right. Yeah.
And not anything else. So here's what's very interesting. I hope you can see this. So this is giant size X-Men. I can't remember how many pages it was, 54 pages, 68.
Says it right. It says it right there.
Giant letters. So when they staple these, the staple's not in the corner, but there are staples. So what you're actually might be able to see is that maybe somebody either pressed it or it's just over time, is that there's like staple bumps there. You kind of see it there, and the staples come right there in the 68. You can see it coming through. Now that's what people have to watch out for if you're going to have someone press giant size books, is remember those staples there, and they're not sticking out the side, they're sticking out this way. So when you press these, you have to be very careful about doing books like this, because you can actually do more damage to the book than you think you're doing. Probably why it's a 9.0. I think your little corner right here is folded over and a little folded there, but because otherwise, if you look at this, you're like, well, this is absolutely fantastic condition. So I was looking at it and I was like, then I saw those staples. I don't know whether that's because somebody did press it or again, just over time is just there, but beautiful books. I'm so glad you shared those with me. Those are fun.
It's, and I don't know if you want to turn this into like into the third part of this conversation. But I'm curious to get your thoughts. So especially with this one. So I bought it, but I've never read it. Yeah, I know the significance of this book, but I never read it. And so there is a bit of a philosophical debate I have about slabbing books. Because once you're slabbed, it's no longer you're changing what it's supposed to be. Like, these are supposed to be read, and if you want to take it as shared, a shared experience. And now you're like, you are locked, you are slabbed.
There is so there is an absolute militant community of people who do not like books entombed. They call it entombed.
I like that.
They do not consider it slab. They consider it entombed. You are ruining the book. Read the book. The problem is, I'm buying golden age books. You have to preserve these things. Newsprint comic book pages from 1941. I'm not reading it, guys.
Stiff breeze from your AC is going to make it disintegrate.
Exactly. There's reprints.
And
just reprints if you want to read it. And I'm going to say this, and I think I said in another video, I mean, interrupt, but also, by the way, these books aren't very good. The further you go back, the worse. I mean, I remember as a kid and read them, it was great, but today you're like, this is a clumsy read. It's not made for us. It's not made for our intellect at this point in our lives. The basic story is that the X-Men are in trouble. Professor X gathers some other mutants and they go to rescue the original X-Men. That's how they got introduced into this story.
No.
But honestly, it's clumsy. I mean, you read Peter Parker's Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man from the early 70s, maybe the 20-cent books and stuff like that. And there's so much 1970s jive turkey lingo in the book. That's a gas, man. Like they're goofy and they're not great rereads.
Yeah.
And especially if it's DC books, they're even worse.
It's okay. About a month or two, Marvel re-released, reprinted it. I was like, all right, this will help my soul.
Yeah.
I will buy the reprint and actually read it. And you basically said everything I was going to say about it. Is like this might be an important book. I don't think you're going to teach that book in comic book writing 101.
Nope.
I just remember reading it's like, so the main conflict is everyone's just kind of a dick to each other.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like, and I loved the era. I do have a nostalgia for the era of everybody insulting each other by basically their powers. Like, laser brain, all that. Like they just calling each other
Well,
like
the
weakest.
thing had every name for the Human Torch on Earth,
Yes,
every insulting you could possible, right? Yeah, everybody was just mean to each other. So
I don't know if we can swear or anything, but like
now some people would say, well, you got a reader's copy or a reprint and the original. What's the point? That's okay. They're okay with that as opinion.
Yeah.
I would give you my feedback is that this is I'm a comic book collector.
Yeah.
I don't call myself a comic book reader. Sometimes I do. I can be both.
Yeah.
So for me, I love preserving books. Now, I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. I got a book slabbed that I bought. I don't think it was mine. I think I bought it. By mine, I mean, I didn't like grow up with it and buy it when I was a kid. I bought it at some point along the way and added it to my collection. And I said, I should get this signed. It was an Amazing Spider-Man. And I got it back. And it was I think it came back qualified. It either came back qualified or a lower grade than expected because it said John Romita's signature inside.
Mm-hmm.
So the way at Comic Cons back to the 1970s when Comic Cons first started is that nobody ever signed the cover.
Right.
They signed splash page right at the top. That's almost, or right at the bottom. That's almost all. There's people pick those books up all the time. They open it up and they're like, if you look at like the Reddit comic book page on Reddit, comic book collecting on Reddit, every other post is, I just bought this at an antique mall and I opened it up and Jack Kirby's signature is in it.
Oh, that's the dream.
So I got it slabbed. I must not have ever noticed it was either in there or forgot, got it slabbed. It's not on the cover. No one's ever going to see that signature. John Romita's signature, we know it's in there because it says it, but no one's ever going to get to enjoy seeing it. And a little bit of me, even I think on my video when I saw it, I was like, that is kind of weird. Now, again, a screwdriver and an X-Acto and you got it out and you can see it. I might open it all up and look and go, oh yeah, I wish I kept that slabbed. I don't know, but I could see that, the entombed, because it's not a permanent thing and you can get things graded again or reholdered, they're accessible, but that's my long-winded version of I'm 100% behind slabbing if you want to do it. These aren't books that I want to reread, and you're probably better off reading trades.
Like the stuff with Chew and Scalp and stuff like that. And even Saga, like I said, Saga was my book. I'm okay with slabbing it because at this point I would probably go with a trade. I would reread that. I would give that to my son to read.
Yeah. So another part for me is I've thought about this before. You guys have heard me if you've watched other videos. I used to have a collection of tens and thousands of comic books, and I got rid of almost all of them. I went through some of them, but I didn't go through everything. Like my Secret Wars were in there from when I was a kid. I didn't pay attention and they were gone. It was just getting older, cleaning out life. I sold 1,000 carded action figures in the box. I sold tens and tens of thousands of comic books. Took multiple trips to my dad's pickup truck to bring them there. I kept out my best stuff that I kind of had separated, but then there was other books, like all my X-Men, probably the first Gambit, Ultimate Fallout 4. There's a whole bunch of books in there that I just didn't think of at the time because I wasn't deep into the collecting hobby.
Right.
I was in the reading hobby. But where I'm going with that is the reason I got rid of them is I never reread them. I don't reread comics anymore. When I was a kid and I only had a handful of comics and I was building them up, we were rereading them all the time. But as soon as you have tens of thousands of comics, what am I even doing with them? I'm not rereading Chew #1. I'm not rereading Saga #1. I'm just not. So if I can preserve it, I can display it in a beautiful way, and it has resale value. Like some people have this, I think it's the chip on their shoulder or some type of moral thing they have is looking at comic books as investment or buying them for investment is verboten. That was a German word for you, Derek. I don't buy into it. I don't care. What's wrong with wanting things to be worth more money? What's wrong with investing? People buy their real estate for investing. They buy stocks. You don't buy stock saying, no, no, no,
Right.
I'm just going to read these. I'm just going to read the paperwork they send me every quarter. I
Okay.
don't want to be worth more money.
Okay, could there be the difference being stocks are created and have like they're created to be investments, right? Like that's why
They're-
they exist. And where I think some of the pushback on people looking at comics as just investments is it takes the artistry out of it.
So
And it takes the experience.
you said
of a
something
comic book.
key there.
Yeah.
No offense to some people, because again, none of this is supposed to be offensive. My mom wants to make sure I keep this
Just two guys
inoffensive.
talking.
Two guys talking, because we don't want any trolls and everything like that. My mom will yell at them. So you said something very key there. And what it is there are people who will buy them for investment and never read comics.
Yeah.
I read my comics.
Yeah.
You read your comics.
Yes.
I'm not somebody, and I'm okay if you do, because you want to also be a business, is all the comics I buy, yes, I probably didn't read all the Golden Age books that I bought already slabbed, but I didn't need to. I still am a comic book reader. I'm a reader first.
Yeah.
I just don't reread them, so I either slab them or get rid of them. You know, I have tons of comic books still left. I want to give them to like a boys club or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, let someone else read them, enjoy them. So you're right. If you're just, I'm only buying this and I know nothing about this giant size X-Men. Well, I've loved the X-Men since I was a kid. So I feel like I can do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
Excuse me for the language. Do not demonetize me, YouTube. I'm just kidding. They don't monetize.
Good, yeah.
But
And and when I think about what you're doing, as we've talked off camera about, the books that you're buying and the books that you're interested in, is you're also approaching a lot of your books, like when you talk about them, you're treating them as art.
yes.
Like you're finding covers that talk to you, that speak to you.
yes.
And I think that, again, is its own, yeah.
I have news for you.
Right.
Australian Catman number 23 and a 7.0 is going to probably worth less than what I paid for and is never going to be an investment book. But look at that cover.
Right. So you get that
I'm getting the
visceral
art
artistic reaction
Yes.
from it.
Yep.
And I think that's, people in the industry, and also, I mean, comics is just hard. Like there's a tip of the iceberg group of creators who can reliably pay their mortgage from being a comic book creator. And the rest of us love the medium and love the collaborative nature of it, love the expressiveness of it, love the malleability of what comics can be. You've been very kind of pointing out, the stuff that I write is all over the place, but they're all still comics.
Right.
And the worry, and we've seen it in, I mean, you were alive. I don't know if you were a baseball card kid, but like, the 90s, well, shit, man, the 90s come around and you see how like, oh, baseball cards as investment peaked and then tanked that industry. And at the same time, the foil covers of the 90s comics and all of that forced collectability maybe had a pop, but then cratered it.
Yep.
And
comics had their own thing. And
yeah.
So I'm going to say this too. As I've told you, I've gotten more into Golden Age books for a number of reasons. Number one, I had never really collected them, but I always admired them from afar. I had picked up some cheapy ones. I have a couple of issues of like the Jaguar. I had Lawbreakers Always Lose. By the way, Lawbreakers Always Lose that I bought in the 1980s. I got it graded. I don't know if you remember that video when I did a Golden Age. It came back on 9.2. I'm pretty sure I have the highest graded one on the census. And it's got white pages.
What year?
1948.
Damn.
And but I kind of like
miracle.
I dipped my toes, but always appreciated it from a distance. And then at some point in the last was probably December of not last December, the December before. It's been a short time. I'm like, well, when am I ever going to do this? And as I started seeing more of them, again, it was art.
Yeah.
It was art and it was nostalgia. And part of it, what transported me, and I'm going to use the Catman, for example, even though this is from 1970, even the art on the back, the advertisements, thinking some kids, thinking so I have some Golden Age books that were my dad's. They're in not great shape. They used to read them and things like that. Yeah, they had in the 1950s and things like that. I'm like, some kid owned this. Some kid read this. There's some magic in this
Yeah.
book. And I felt like buying these Golden Age books was some magic that I was capturing from a generation or two ago.
Yeah.
And that captured my attention too. Like, this is so goofy. This is a real book somebody bought in the 1950s. This is a reprint, but like, this was what it was like. And it was an era that I wasn't a part of. It's sort of like when people like say, boy, I wish I was born in the 60s and we could party. I should have been born in the 1940s, whatever it is, for whatever reasons they think another era was better. I look back and I was like, this must have been just an absolutely amazing time for comics. Now, I grew up in the Bronze Age, and we had an amazing time too. Now, all that being said, I've watched comics go up and down since the 80s.
Yeah.
Golden Age books don't really go down. They might not skyrocket.
Right.
But even during, so if you watch any of the YouTubers like Automatic Comics or Swaggle House or any of these ones or like that, hey, I hope you guys are watching my videos. Hi guys. Jim from Bronzeville, hello. All of them. Mon Comics, you better be watching, buddy. I'll show you my new tattoo when it's done. But the point is that a lot of their clickbait videos and titles are about, is the market cratering? And they've got, you know, thumbnails of them going like, and if you ever see me doing that in my thumbnails, just know that I'm making fun of that trend. And I know everybody does it and things like that. Yeah. The point is, Randy, land the plane, is that all these books are plummeting. Even the giant size X-Men's of the world are coming back to grounded in reality.
The post-pandemic correction, we're in the middle of it.
And thankfully, my dipping my toes back into this was post that.
Right.
Just after it.
Yeah.
I missed that comic boom. I wasn't investing that money in that.
The late 2020, early 21.
Yes, I just wasn't. I was still buying my regular comics and things that I wanted, but I was not doing that. I did not go crazy on those. I'm picking up. So I'm actually reaping the benefits because I'm buying some of these books at great prices and people are eager to get rid of them and so forth. But the point is, all these videos show these books cratering. By cratering, I mean coming back to the real price they should be. So, you know, you want to use Ultimate Fallout #4, first Miles Morales, the two movies that come out and the third one that's going to come out. You know, that book went from a $1 bin book or $100-something book 9/8 slab to $8,000, $6,000, whatever it happened to be. I'm making up numbers, something ridiculous. Now you can probably pick it up for $2,500. Still high, but think about those people who bought it at the boom. The Golden Age books, that's not happened to. If you watch heritage auctions or any of these other auctions where the Golden Age books are going, Ryan from Automatic Comics, if you're not watching his channel, I'm sure you are if you ended up here, but watch his channel because he loves to post the weekly heritage auctions or the big special auctions. He makes note of guesses how much the books are going to go for based on GP analysis and all these different things. And he likes to see how close he is. And he is constantly amazed at how these pre-code horror, Matt Baker books, Good Girl books, classic detective comics, Batman and Superman and stuff like that are continuing to even break records.
Yeah.
Golden Age books are still breaking records.
No one's ever going to sell Action Comics #1 at a loss.
So in case you weren't aware, Action Comics #1 with a pedigree 8.5 is going to be auctioned on Heritage, and it is already at least at 5 million. It is going to blow away every record in the world. And the point is, when I'm buying these Golden Age books, there's this nostalgia thing, but not my nostalgia. It's this little magic in the books. It's like Frosty with that hat. You know, it's just some magic in that hat. But also this investment, they're safe for investment. I have Superman #9. Do you think Superman #9 is probably going to crater? Probably not. Also an awesome cover of him bursting through. It's beautiful art.
But then also something like that, like what does a crater for Superman 9 look like?
Right.
You know, that fall isn't gonna ruin your retirement.
Right. So the other thing, it isn't, and it isn't, and those Golden Age books, there's so few of them that come up for option. I just bought a book. I'm gonna get it. I'll unbox it in a couple weeks, or maybe it's even in the box here. It's a baseball book. It's called Babes. It's a girl pitcher. She's got a name, and I picked up issue #2. And it's hard to even figure out the value of that book because Heritage Auction, the #1 biggest auctioneer for premier auction, you know, Hip Comics is doing constant, but they've only ever had 4 copies. How do you price something like that?
Yeah.
I have one of my books. it's a golden age book that I have, and it's like a 3.0 or 3.5. Heritage has only ever auctioned like 3 others, and they were like 7 or 8 graded. So who even knows what mine's worth? It's worth whatever someone's willing to pay for it. But though the rarity, so the reason they don't crater is because when the peak comic book was happening, everybody wanted Deadpool, first Deadpool,
Sure.
and New Mutants 98, because there's 5,000 on the census and 3,000 of them. Actually, there's a much lower rate, but there's a ton of 9.8s. So everybody bought them. Now everybody's trying to dump them. When everybody starts dumping them, that brings the price down. But Superman number 9, how many has sold over the past, since the pandemic in 2020? So now 4 years on, Jesus, they've probably sold 5. So the prices don't fluctuate because nobody's seeing these trending down. So they also hold.
And it's harder. It's hard. If you want that, if you need that, it's harder to get.
It is hard.
And if I can be like super over romantic real quick, when you were talking about that Catman, it kind of hit me, like, especially when this was coming out. Those books were meant to be read, maybe handed around and then thrown away.
Yes.
Their lifespan was supposed to be like, what, a month
Right.
or something like that?
Right.
And so I think there's something kind of romantic.
Yes.
That you pulled that from the timeline.
Right.
And have, it is preserved
history
80 years longer than it was supposed to be.
I wish I could remember this. Sorry, maybe I'll split this into 8 different parts.
This might be a 5. This might be a 5-parter.
I have a book. Yes, if you're watching.
Yeah, who knew you and me in front of a microphone would go on for a bit?
This is like a podcast. People watch podcasts
this is
like 3 hours.
100% a podcast.
It's like a podcast, and you can see how handsome.
Driving up to Montreal, just throw it on, and we'll get you.
Yes, any trip. I have a book that I think I was either gonna. This is where the details get fuzzy, and you get older, folks. I either own it or I was going to buy it in an auction, and I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw the cover of the book, and the book came out like 1955 or something like that. I know it's going to sound so weird. And what kids used to do is write their names on the books.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So the 2 big things you have is the stamps. The stores used to stamp the books, and kids used to write their names on it. And and CGC doesn't grade that harshly because that's just how life was.
Okay.
That's just how life was. The stamps, I think, add to the book. Like when you see some stamp, you know, of some pharmacy that was around, some RX pharmacy and soda fountain in 1942.
You're right. It adds to the story.
It adds to the story.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder where this book is seen. I can imagine some guy in his soda fountain pharmacy, putting it out on the shelves, and the kids coming running out to school and reading and getting a milkshake or something like that. It definitely, it's that magic in it for me. And this kids used to write their names on the books.
Yep.
All the time. This particular book I was looking at, boy, I wish I had more facts for the story, but you get the general idea. The name was odd. The name was like, I'm going to make it up. It was like, Gladville Johnstone. It was something really weird. And I Googled Gladville Johnstone, and they lived in Seattle. And they were like 63 years old. And I did the math, and I'm like, so they were like 9 when this book came out. And I was like, there's no way this isn't their book.
Right.
And I was like, I want to contact them. You go to Spokio or something like that. You'll find a phone number or address.
If they're 63, they're on Facebook.
Right. And I didn't find their obituary. So it probably still alive. But I wanted to say, hey, your comic book is for sale. This was yours.
Yeah.
And I didn't end up reaching out, and I don't know why I didn't pull the trigger on that, but I kind of wish I did. Because a lot of them will just say like Joey, Smith.
Right.
But this name was so strange. I was like, there's no way this isn't this person's book. Like their age range was right there. And I thought, wow, he owned this book. And this book has survived through parents throwing everything away,
right?
Through kids saying, I'm going up to college and I don't need this stuff. Moves.
Yeah.
Right. That's why you find so many books, they find them up in the attics because they moved and they never went and cleaned out the attic. So there's that history behind them. There's history, there's art, and then there's that little bit of magic in them. That's one of the things I like.
It's a great medium. It is such a great storytelling medium.
Yeah.
I'm really glad. I'm really glad I went to San Diego Comic-Con in 2008, and it re-sparked my interest in books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you see the videos of my brother, it's never gonna. re-spark it like that. But my brother and I read comics when we were kids.
Yep.
We had comics when we were kids. We had Spider-Man books, Spider-Man comics, Casper, all whatever books, Archie books. You just have comic books. I remember we had an accident. My brother was in the hospital and people brought him stuff, balloons and candy and comic books.
Yeah.
Like we had them. But my friend Louis Zioli, we moved, it was like 1982, whatever it was. And he had comic books and we liked comic books. And he's like, yeah, well, I go to the comic book store. And we were like, the what?
Yeah.
The what?
Yep.
And all of a sudden we were knee deep in comic books and Bill read them until, again, graduated high school.
Yeah.
He went off and moved to an apartment.
Yeah.
And he gave me most of his comics. You hear me tell that story. He kept a core few.
Yeah.
And then years later, he's like, hey, can I have some of those back? And he still hadn't looked at those in 25 years. And when the video of Bill came in and he started giving you guys a preview of the books, go find that video. The cover looks like the Indiana Jones comic book #1. It's blue. My brother's on the cover. Now he got his first 2 books, Slab. He's reading books that I'm lending him. Like I gave him his own copies of Beneath the Trees where nobody sees. So I don't think he's ever going to get into it like you and I, because he never had like the super bug, but he's reliving that nostalgia a bit, and he's enjoying seeing his old books. So I love seeing that. Like, most people don't know this. There was a period probably during the clone saga of Spider-Man where I dropped out of buying even monthly books because maybe it was money. I think I bought my first house and it just wasn't there. Yeah. And also the clone saga, you know, but I'm glad I rediscovered it. I had to go back and buy those books. So I did. So we covered a lot here, man. And I'm glad that for any of you who have stuck around, and again, shoot us some comments down below. I know everybody says that. And then everybody also says, hey, I know everybody says that because they think it makes you a little more grounded and human. Like, you know, I'm not a robot, like leave comments below and like and subscribe. I don't have fancy animation.
The fact of the matter is, like, I know this from, Facebook and Twitter and trying to, be a creative person and get creative stuff out there. All of these platforms are now so algorithm driven.
Yep.
I saw a great post the other day. It was like, I just wanted to tell stories, not outsmart an algorithm.
Yep. And that's what I'm
so, that when anybody, whether it's, whether it's Randy or any other YouTuber or podcast or something like that, like just leaving a comment is a huge win.
Yep.
You can't understand how small that movement means to the algorithm.
Yep.
Like I said, whether it's this channel, anything you're watching, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you reposting, you commenting, that type of stuff is a massive win for the person that you're looking to support.
Yep.
And truly, if you don't have the money to throw at a creator, like those likes, those reshares, it's huge.
It is. Yeah. And I'm going to say this. I appreciate you guys liking, subscribing, commenting. I don't know. I don't like to read the analytics because, like, I looked at the analytics one day a couple of months ago and I saw that I had 98% likes. And I was like, wait, that means 2% dislikes. Who disliked my video? What did you dislike about it?
Yeah, you
why
do that.
What did you not like about it?
That.
So I don't want to look at analytics, guys. I want to know, because I'm not trying to make money. I'm not trying to make a career. I'm trying to share fun stuff with you guys. And
it's passion, like all this stuff. Like, everybody starts from a passion. And I think comics is such a passion driven, whether you're a fan, a creator, or anywhere in between. Like it is passion that drives this industry.
And that leads in exactly what George said before. I want to say, I released a video a couple of weeks ago, and what I noticed was, and this is why you guys are awesome and why this has been so fun. At the moment, at the time, a snapshot in time, I had a couple of hundred views, but I had like 70 likes and like 40 comments. I mean, that is a huge percentage, because I could get 10,000 views, but if I get like 10 likes, but I was like, wow, I can have a couple hundred views and like 30 to 40% of like commented or like you guys are amazing. And that's one of the things I love. And I respond to all my comments. I don't know if I'll ever get big enough to not be able to respond to comments, but I love the interactions and learning what other people do and seeing how they identify. Like, hey, I grew up with the bronze. Some guy just commented yesterday, I think it was, like, hey, I grew up in the Bronze Age, and Bill, your books are awesome. I remember that and stuff. Like, that makes me feel awesome.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, like, I don't know why I do this. When people ask me, hey, why do you make YouTube videos? I don't know, because I like talking about comic books, and I don't shut up, and my wife doesn't have to hear me talk nonstop to her about stuff. So you guys get to listen to me. And I never imagined it being any more than me guilting my friends on Facebook to watch the videos. Um, and that's it. But the fact that you guys actually like and comment, and it is super important, and you guys do it, that's so cool. I feel like I'm like pals with all. We should have like a swarm of comics get together, like convention. We should have a convention or something like that. And but anyway, so I appreciate that. If you guys like, comment, subscribe. I'm glad that you guys have stuck around this long. I've had a lot of fun with you, George.
Thank you, man.
It's always my bud.
It's fun to have a longer conversation about this stuff. Like normally,
and the 2 minutes before band practice starts.
Yeah, where there are other priorities that need to take place.
Right.
So yeah, so that's why this brain dump here is like we're both. There's a Venn diagram that both of us cross over a lot.
Yeah,
and we don't get a whole lot of opportunity to just explore conversation.
Right.
And this is the perfect medium for it.
No, it was perfect. I enjoyed you being here. I can't wait for your new project, Vampires on Mars. Actually, which is good, because even after when I was making your logo, you're not gonna remember this, I kept making your logo say Vampires from Mars.
Right.
And you were like, it's to Mars. on Mars.
Yeah.
I'm still getting it wrong.
But yeah, this, like I said, we've said it a bunch of times, that we love this medium. Whether it was when we were youngins picking it up, or now adults, taking it from there. It's, like I said, I love the medium. I love the collaborative nature of it. I love being able to tell stories and get them out into the world. So I thank you, like I said, for your 15 years of support, not only that, but also, supporting in the creation of it.
Yeah, I love being a part of it. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Anything to me.
And I feel that, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. I also want to point out real quick, only because I love the cover in that book. Go find Silent Night from George there. What does Santa do in his off time?
Yeah.
Maybe he's a vigilante of justice. Find that book. Find all his books.
Yeah, if you go to homelesscomics.com, we've got free previews of all the books on there. So you can download a PDF and get a look at all 6 books that I've created so far, including Silent Night, co-created by Dafu Yu, Leslie Atlansky doing the colors on that. Yeah, so go to Homeless Comics, check it out. If Vampires on Mars sounds interesting to you,
On Mars.
Vampires on Mars. It'll be up on Kickstarter right now. Go to the page. We've got 6 or 7 preview pages there. So you can check out that and see if it's in your wheelhouse. And then again, the reason I love Kickstarter as a platform is you are directly supporting the people making the thing. So, when those books get printed, it is a collaboration between the creators and the fans and the supporters.
Right, you guys help make it come to life.
You absolutely have a direct impact on not only the thing coming out, but us being able to take that momentum and keep building things and creating things and putting it out there. I love that direct connection. I believe in it. We've been doing it. I've been running Kickstarters for the last 13 years. I support hundreds and hundreds of Kickstarters. So I believe in the medium from both sides. And I'm really excited to get Vampires on Mars out there. I think it's fun. Like I said, horror, sci-fi, humor, all mixed up.
Humor, yeah, that's a big important part of it. Was the humor as well. So all those links should be down there. I'll have George send them all to me, and I'll put them in there. So please click on them, check them out. Even if it's not in your budget to support, like George said earlier, just go to the website, follow them on Twitter, whatever it happens to be, and just help support independent creators. So I appreciate you coming on today. I had an awesome time. This was super fun. I'm definitely going to have George on again. I already have ideas
for another 5-part series.
Thank you for joining us in our PBS five-part series about the creation of gears. There's something boring.
We're going to talk about paperweight in comic books.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm Randy Swarm of Comics. This is George O'Connor from Homeless Comics and Swarm of Eyes. Wait, I thought we were gonna end it with.
Oh,
King
okay.
Fit.
You want to try it?
Ready? We're gonna try it again. We'll edit this out, or maybe not. Maybe not.
No,
Like,
leave it in.
and Swarm of Eyes. I was looking over there, not the camera.
With
Let's
the
do it one
camera.
more time. Ready?
Look, now we have to leave it.
I forget the camera. I have to. All right, ready? I'm
Are we
Randy.
gonna- are we
I'm Randy from Swarm. I'm Randy from Swarm of Comics.
I'm George O'Connor from Swarm of Eyes. He's Randy from Swarm of Eyes.